to order. Would our clerk, Ms. Minor, call the roll?
Allen. Fries.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
O'Shea.
Here.
Iqbal.
All here.
Kenyon.
Here.
Leonard.
Here.
Lewis. Martin.
Present.
Thank you. Sanchez.
Here.
Shefflo.
Shefflo here.
Surges. Thomas.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Onicki.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a quorum. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Karen and Jane for their work. There is a lot to keep track of and to put into order. It's not as easy as they make it look, and I think that they all do a great job. So thank you very much. Now, out of respect to our veterans, those who have served in the armed forces, I know that Mike Kenyon is a veteran. I believe it was Army, if I'm not mistaken. Good. Do we have other veterans in attendance? I thought so. Mr. Weber, would you stand and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Would everyone stand? Mr. Weber, thank you for your service.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of
The United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Steve. Okay, approval of the minutes. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the November 4th, 2020 meeting? Moved by Mr. Leonard, second by Ms. Wonicki. Are there any thoughts, comments, changes? Seeing none in the room. Any from anyone on the phone? Hearing none. Clerk, call the roll.
Allen. Fries.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
O'Shea.
Yes.
Iqbal.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Shefflo.
Shefflo, yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Onicki.
Yes.
Thank you.
Surges, yes.
Yeah.
Apologize, Mr. Surges.
Okay, the minutes are approved. A public comment. Are there any public comments from those in person? Seeing none. Anyone from on the phone? Hearing none. We'll go to the monthly financial report from Mr. Onsick.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Joe.
I had sent out a presentation last, well, I guess it was in the middle of the night, but it's just highlights from the financial committee, as well as comments from the Moody's issue or comment report that was sent out. So if that could be displayed, then we could begin the presentation.
Just a moment.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Is it not
It's
working?
a little bit delay or something here, I guess. Is someone else able to control it? Okay, very good. What I wanted to start with is just a quick review of where we were at year to date with the general fund revenue. And what I did was it's the same information that was presented at finance, except I ordered it in descending order. So, or I guess you could say ascending order. The circuit clerk had the most reduction in revenue as compared to last year, and this is year to date through October. And this, of course, has to do with the courts having been closed for a period of time and the impact of COVID-19. Sales tax would be second largest reduction. Revenue brought in by the sheriff's area was the next. Investment income, 400,000 was next, and development. This has to do with permits and that type of revenue coming in from there. Personal property replacement tax would be next, in the county clerk revenue. Then we have smaller reductions. in other areas. And then try to advance this. County board, small amount, building management, small amount. And some of these small amounts are also to do with timing differences as compared from one year to another. So really it's the more significant increases then come in judiciary and court, state's attorney, income tax revenue, recorder revenue, and local use tax revenue. So the net change from 2019 to 2020 is almost $3.2 million reduction. Advance. I also just wanted to put up the slide that compares sales tax revenue, because I think this is a pretty good indication of the impact of COVID-19 on our sales. And so the months that you see across the top and across the bottom represent the months in which the sales actually occurred. The green area of that graph indicates the amount of sales tax that's being collected in 2020 based on sales that occurred between December and August. And the red area in the background represents the amount of sales tax that we had collected in 2019 that we are now missing in 2020. So you can see how the decline in sales tax revenue began in February, in March, it worsened in April, and then it started to improve as we moved into May and June. And then now at the last couple of months from June, July, August, it's slightly below, but then it's starting to decline again in August. So I think this is a good representation of the impact of COVID on our sales tax revenue. And now I also just wanted to give you just a brief overview of the year-end timeline, just to kind of keep that in your mind as we move forward. So in mid-January, that's the time that we begin our preliminary audit field work. The end of January is when we will have a good feel for what our general fund revenue would be, because the end of January is the last day that we can actually count revenue for the fiscal year that has been collected through the end of January. Anything beyond January cannot be counted as revenue for 2020. And by beyond January, I mean revenue that may have been earned in fiscal year 2020, but is not collected until after January. The end of February is when we'll have a better handle on the actual expenditures, because that's about the time that all of the accruals and the last invoices are being processed. Early March is the time that we would then compare the revenue and the expenditures for the year, and any excess revenue over expenditures is what we need to decide on how to allocate. And so that would take place early March, the early March board meeting. Sometimes it goes into April at the latest, but March is our target date. March is the month that we have our final audit field work. April is when financial statements and analysis are prepared. And then May would be when the CAFR would actually be completed and presented to the committee of the whole. Then these are just a few comments I wanted to share with you regarding Moody's annual issuer comment report that they sent to the county. The chairman had already sent this out to you, the report itself, along with my email, but I thought it was important enough to share again at this meeting. The key comments, and there's two slides that I'll just quickly review for you, is that we have a very good credit position. We have an AA1 rating that which slightly exceeds the median rating of A2 for U.S. counties in general. We have a robust financial position. We have an extensive tax base. We have strong wealth and income profile. We have a negligible debt burden. And the financial position of the county is very healthy. And the fund balance as a percent of operating revenues is 102.4%, which is far superior to the U.S. median. Next slide. The cash balance as a percent of operating revenue is 104.4%, which is far above the U.S. median as well. The county has a very strong economy and tax base overall. The total full taxable property value is significantly above the US median, and there was an impressive increase between 2015 and 2019. The median family income is healthy and is 122.4% of the US level. The only negative comment that they included in their report is that according to Moody's adjusted net pension liability as a comparison to operating revenue, it's 2.12 times the amount of operating revenue compared to the US median of 1.38 times. But this is a unique calculation that Moody does. It doesn't really fit our county very well in the sense that it does not include all of the operating revenue that we use to pay our IMRF pension expense each year. So there are several, we charge out our IMRF pension expense to several of the special revenue funds, which are then the funding coming into those special revenue funds is what pays for the IMRF expense in those funds. Moody's does not include that revenue. So I think that's why it appears to be higher, but it's just the way they calculate it, and that's just their way of doing it. So I just wanted to explain that so you're not concerned about that. What has contributed to the county's strong financial rating? And I've listed in the next slide some of the items here. We've had no increase to the property tax levy on existing property. And I thought this would be an appropriate time to reflect on these last 8 years, since this is the amount of time I've been here, so I can speak to that. This is the amount of time that Chairman Lausen has been here. And this, of course, is during the time of Chairman Hochschiedt's of the Finance Committee has also been there. And I think the entire board needs to take credit for this. I think if we go back, somehow jumped ahead. Okay, so this is the reason why I thought it would be appropriate to just take a moment to reflect on this. What is it that contributed to this? We maintained a structurally balanced budget. We have built strong reserves. We have avoided debt. We have refinanced existing debt at lower interest rates. We paid down debt and paid down the pension obligation. At the same time, we've been maintaining and improving transportation infrastructure. There's been a steady growth in that position. We've been controlling expenditure increases. There's been strong financial internal controls and full transparency all along the way. And we have a healthy local economy. The next slide, please. And the results of those efforts become the legacy for the future. And I just want to just put up a few slides that I think you're familiar with. As a result of those efforts, we have excellent bond ratings with Standard & Poor's and Moody's. And this has enabled us to obtain financing at the lowest possible rates. And for example, the bond issue that we just went through for the multi-use facility construction project, our rate was only 1.5%. Next slide. This is a slide that is included in the CAFR, and this shows the steady net growth in net position that we've achieved over these past years. It's an average net growth or increase in net growth of 2.3%. And this growth in that position really highlights the growth in investment in infrastructure as compared to debt, and as well as our other building of reserves. So it just represents a very healthy financial picture for the county. And then the last slide, I believe, this is then the slide that I think you've been familiar with. You've seen a lot of it. This is courtesy of Mark Armstrong and also Terry Hunt, who designed the slide. What this shows is how the property tax levy has been increasing. And then beginning in 2011-2012 timeframe, the property tax levy had been frozen on existing property. And that green area that you see at the top of those bars is the difference between what the property tax levy actually was and what it could have been. So that represents the property tax relief that's been achieved, and I think has contributed to the healthy local economy. One good thing to keep in mind is that even if the county board decides to increase property tax in the future, they would be limited by the CPA. So, I'm sorry, the CPI. So that difference between what the property tax levy would be and what it could have been will always continue on into the future. So this truly is a legacy going into the future for as long as the rules for how to raise property tax levies continue to be the same, where we're limited by the CPI. So that is something that you can all be proud of as a gift to the future, and is something that we can continue working on as we move forward. So that's all I have to share with you.
Okay. There was one other slide that you had. that
Oh,
was,
did I miss it?
reserves.
Okay. Oh, I'm
Not
sorry.
not that I would ever.
You're right. I was trying to go by memory and I couldn't control the clicker here. But yes, and we also have operating reserves. And these are only two of them, but these are the main ones. The emergency reserve of 5.2 million that was established a few years ago was added to and has been preserved and untouched. And now as a result of setting aside the payroll reimbursement from the CARES Act Relief Fund, we have 6.8 million that we're carrying forward into the future. So that's a total of 12 million in operating reserves that are there for whatever the county board decides to use them for.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Are there any questions for Mr. Onsick? Dr. Iqbal.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a comment and a question to ask Mr. Onsick regarding the negative comments we got from Moody. The ratio is 2.12 versus 1.38, which is acceptable. What should we do to conform to, say, Moody's criteria? Is there something that we need to do to conform to it?
Well, if you're asking my opinion, I mean, I'm not an expert in this, but I don't know that we need to do very much of anything. I think this is just an anomaly of how Moody calculates that. I think just knowing of the high percentage that we are funded is exceptional in itself. I think one of the things is also, I mean, I don't know because I haven't looked into it in detail, but this is a comparison of the national average. And so I think one of the things as a result of being in the county in the state of Illinois is IMRF is a very generous pension plan. And so our tax liability, our pension liability probably is higher than other areas because of that reason also. So there's more to it than what appears at the surface. And certainly if there is an opportunity to continue paying down our pension obligation, we should certainly take advantage of that. But the way, in the near future, it doesn't seem that that would be feasible, but it's something that should always be on the list of things to do whenever we have an opportunity to do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
and Doctor? Okay, and if you wouldn't mind my making a comment also, the really important statistic is the one that the actuaries from IMRF issue each year. As we all know, and I appreciate the support that the board gave a year or so ago to the opposition to lowering the expectations from the money managers for IMRF. It was unnecessary. They said that they just couldn't make 7.5% anymore. And that year they made what, maybe 18 to 21%. So, and then the date to watch this year is going to be December 31st. Louis Casiba, who's the executive director of IMRF for, gosh, maybe 25, 28 years, used to really emphasize on December 31st, whatever the performance is in the markets, that's what we go by. And right now, a couple of the indexes are showing between 6 and 12%. And so we'll see how it ends up at the end of this month. But what the actuaries, the people who are closest to this and do the calculation, what they say is that we're fully funded at 90 to 95%. One of the things that helped IMRF in Illinois and all the people who are under, operate under IMRF is that about 9-10 years ago, and it was one of the last things that I did when I left the Illinois Senate, was I helped sponsor the reduction of the promises made under IMRF. And it established a tier 2. I thought at that time that was maybe 18 to 20% reduction in the promises so that you lower the hurdle enough so that you can go over it without hitting your forehead. What we did actually was reduce it by about 42%. So the tier 2 folks who are operating over the last 8 years, they have much more strict rules. It makes it easier to get to full funding. And so what we need to do going forward, the essence of your question, is we need to keep paying our obligation, which we have no choice. We have to by state statute. And we have to keep an eye on the IMRF board. We have to have people who walk in our shoes rather than the investment managers. It's like, who do you really serve in all these positions? And the answer is the constituents of Illinois. So thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Surgis.
Just a comment. Joe, thank you for the email last night on the IPBC.
I can't take it home.
Spoke about this so many times and Joe said, check came in yesterday, so, or transfer, however that works, but that was very kind of you to send out.
Oh, you're welcome. And what Mr. Surgis is referring to is the almost $1.4 million refund from IPBC that they had informed us we'd be receiving by December 1st, and it came on December 1st.
So $1,400,000. So thank you, Cliff. Thank you, Bill. Thank you to everybody who's worked on all of that on the board. And thanks to Mike Baker at Group Alternatives. All good team. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Any from anybody on the phone? Okay, hearing none. We'll go to construct the agenda, the consent agenda for the board meeting next Tuesday. Okay, first of all, we'll go to our chairman of county development, Mr. Martin. I believe that you have one item that you'd like to move. So Mr. Martin.
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That one item being an ordinance which establishes the Big Timber Oaks Special Service Area for purposes of maintaining their the public and other improvements. And I would ask that I would move that and ask for a second.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. Leonard. Any thoughts, questions, comments? Seeing none, hearing none, that will be put onto the consent agenda on Tuesday morning. Under executive for this meeting, may I have a motion and a second to authorize certain actions relative to the tax agent? The routine, Ms. Allen moves, Mr. Leonard seconds. Any thoughts or comments, discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. Let's see.
You missed the
No, I need to take a vote over on the, very sorry. Let's back up to the county development area. Karen, I'm going to ask you to participate. And so would you call the,
Thank you.
call the roll on that one?
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Yes.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
Hoshait,
Yes.
Iqbal, Kenyon,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shefflo,
Sheffler, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Monicky.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now it will be moved on to the consent agenda. We have a motion from Allen, second by Leonard, on the authorizing certain actions relative to tax agent. Any discussion on that one? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Fraz,
Fraz, yes.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
Hoshait,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shefflo,
Sheffler, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Wonecki.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll be on the consent agenda. It passes. May I have a motion and a second authorizing an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between County of Kane, Kane County Sheriff's Office, the Board of Education of Kaneland Community Unit School District 302, allowing the school resources officers to be equipped with body-worn camera. So moved by Mr. Leonard, second by Mr. Sanchez. Discussion. Seeing none. Anybody on the phone? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Fraz,
Yes.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
Hoshait,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Well, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shefflo,
Sheffler, yes.
Surges,
Burgess, yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Wonecki.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. That'll go to the consent agenda. May I have a motion and a second for resolution appointing an interim executive director of the Kane County Health Department. So moved by Ms. Allen, second by Mr. Sanchez. The lady's name on the resolution that you've either received so far or you'll receive shortly is Kathy Fosser. And so any discussion? Seeing none? Hearing none? Clerk, call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Fraz,
Yes.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
Hoshait,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shefflo,
Sheffler, yes.
Surges,
Burgess, yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Wonecki.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes. It'll go to the consent agenda. I'd like to ask our chairman of finance budget, John Hoshait, who, if I'm not mistaken, this is your final meeting, Mr. Hoshait.
Final executive committee, yes.
So there's 26 items, I believe, that you'd like to present and move, but there are two of those that number 23 was not necessary. So if that one can be taken off, and then a slight amendment to number 22, make it a little bit more specific. Would it be all right with you if you presented the first 24 and then we go to that one separately?
Sure, I'll move items 1 through 22 to start with.
Through 21, perhaps?
I'm sorry, 1 through 21, correct. Sorry.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Hoshait, second by Mr. Leonard. Mr. Hoshait.
Okay. These are a number of resolutions that come up this time of year. One is a budget adjustment related to the allocation that we previously approved on September 14th. Number 2 is allocation of CARES Act savings to do a budget adjustment for emergency purchase for the health department generator. 3 is a similar adjustment for emergency purchase of air purification equipment. Number 4 authorizes a budget adjustment for sheriff's purchase of a vehicle for the drug task force. 5 is adjustment, an addendum to the license agreement for our voting system. Number 6 approves our annual insurance renewal. 7 approves a budget adjustment for the multi-use facility that's being constructed. 8 authorizes a reduction in liquor licenses for next year. Number 9 authorizes a contract for flexible benefit services. 10 approves the retiree monthly health and dental contributions. 11 authorizes DevNet tax portal for property information system. 12 authorizes purchase of naloxone with funding from the Department of Human Services. 13 authorizes an intergovernmental agreement with Village of West Dundee for recycling of electronics. 14 adopts the Solid Waste Management Resource Recovery Plan update. 15 renews our City View license and maintenance agreement. 16 is a contract extension for electrical aggregation. 17 amends a prior resolution to include expenditures for food distribution expenses. 18, 19, and 20 abate taxes that were previously levied as alternative revenue sources. And 21 authorizes participation in the state's attorney appellate prosecutor program.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Yes.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
Hoshea,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shefflo,
Sheffler, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Thomas,
yes,
Weber,
Yes.
Wonecki.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 22 as amended.
Okay. The amendment on number 22 in the therefore be it resolved King County by the King County Board that the treasurer is requested to provide view-only access to the required bank transaction data and bank analysis statements under the contract for 3+1, where it has as soon as possible. I suggest and I'd like to ask for an amendment by December 18th of 2020. As soon as possible doesn't mean anything. And so to make it specific to 10 days, all it is giving approval. We have received the information, but it's not in a electronic format. It's individual hundreds and hundreds of pages. And so the request is within 10 days of the potential passage of this next Tuesday. So
I move that as amended.
okay, so as amended, so moved by Mr. Hoshait, second by Mr. Leonard. Any discussion? Mr. Sanchez?
Thank you, Chairman Lawson. My understanding is that Treasurer Rickert still had some, he still wished to see this held off for a brief pause. Is he on the line? Is he here to answer to that at all?
Mr. Rickert? Hearing none, I believe no is the answer. However, I think that we can still answer the question as well as we know the answer to that question. Joe, weren't the two questions that Mr. Rickert had, number one, that they keep the information confidential, which, I mean, these are 35-year experienced bankers. Of course, they keep it confidential. And it is confirmed multiple times in the response to the RFP and in the contract. And then the second question that Mr. Rickert had was that that he wanted to be sure that there was no violation of the internal control statute saying that these people manage the money. No, they don't. They're a data and they're a data company, information technology company, and they give recommendations. It will be up to this board and to the treasurer to do all of those, to do those. So that's my memory of what those two questions were that Mr. Rickert. Was there anything else that you're aware of, Joe?
Not that I can think of. Those were the concerns that he expressed to me. And the confidentiality portion of it is addressed in the professional services agreement, that it's a standard language the county uses to cover that type of information, so that it's already addressed in the contract. And then, as you've explained, the concern regarding having someone else manage the investments was really it's not a concern because it's not true. That is not the case with this.
Okay, all right. Actually, can we also, while we're on discussion on this item, can you put up the 3+1 opportunity? I'm sorry, I apologize to the people who serve on the Finance Committee because this is going to be redundant, but to this larger group of 14 members of the executive committee before you go into the meeting next Tuesday. There's maybe 7 different just quick points that I'd like to make. First of all, the board has unanimously supported, all those who have voted on it twice, both the RFP and then the contract approval. I appreciate Joe Onsick and his staff's work on this item. There should always be a healthy tension between a constructive tension between bankers and their clients when it comes to deposits and fees. You don't want it to be too close because whatever they gain, you lose. And we want to make sure that we optimize and maximize the amount of non-property tax revenue that our taxpayers benefit by. I think that this becomes, if it's passed on Tuesday, the execution of this relatively quickly becomes a wonderful, one of the first of many future achievements of the new chairman and the new board that comes. And I'd like to welcome Ms. Parag to the meeting today. Thank you very much for taking your time. So the company provides data and solutions. They do not invest anyone's money, anyone, anywhere. So this is just information, it's not direction. So you ask, well, why would we do this? The answer is naturally, we want to double check. When the budget assumption for the earnings on our reserves on $250 million is 0.4%. Think about it. You take 1 penny on a dollar, you cut that penny in half, then you reduce it by 20% down to 0.4%, and you say, can I have a second opinion, please? And that's what these folks do. They don't do it because that's the treasurer's responsibility. All of you do it, executed by the treasurer. So if you can just take that to 0.8%, that's $1 million right out of the box that you gain in that relationship. All the procedures have been followed a couple of times. Joe Onsick negotiated the contract, took care of it. This really is an example of best practices, new technology of artificial intelligence. It is recommended and endorsed by NACO, National Association of Accounting Organizations, that artificial intelligence, the more all of us learn about it, the more actually scary on one side it is, but hopefully helpful to humanity. The beginning of deep learning, where you take people's experience and you run it through. There's a YouTube example of where they do one of the Dutch great master, I think it's a Rembrandt, where they go through and they can actually duplicate what was done in painting a Rembrandt from the artificial intelligence of going through all the steps that were taken, even with the various materials. And then the nice thing, another nice thing about this is we've got nothing to lose, because part of how they charge their fees is the fee is essentially contingent on them producing more savings than they cost us. So why would we ever not look for more advice on this? I'm happy that the treasurer has given us information, so it's not a confidentiality concern because we have the information from our banking partners. It just wasn't in usable form. So one of the things that was interesting when I took a look at the first, I asked for a banking analysis statement. Now, this is not any single person or group's information. This is the people's information. And when I took a look at, I asked for a bank's analysis statement, and instead I received a bank statement that showed net interest. When I then asked for, no, could you give me the banking analysis statement for that same month, and you took a look at the detail, what it showed was a gross interest, and on the bank statement it was net interest a certain amount. When you take a look at the banking analysis statement, you get gross interest, and then bank fees, and then the net amount. And I think that some of us have been told that we are not charged any banking fees. Well, maybe not after net, in net interest, but we're getting charged. And wouldn't you want to look underneath? Wouldn't you want to have a second opinion? Wouldn't you want to improve our position? And the answer to all those just have to be yes. And then the answer is, it's up to the board on Tuesday and future actions to just get it done. Because there's $1 million waiting on that one. And it's very exciting. As I mentioned at the Finance Committee, victory has 1,000 fathers. Defeat is an orphan. This is a victory. So I wish everybody all the best. Sorry that it took a little bit longer, but it really is important that we don't sidetrack ourselves or delay in saving money. Okay, other discussion, questions? Seeing none, hearing none, clerk call the roll. Oh, excuse me, this is on the this is on the motion as amended.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Fries,
Yes.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
O'Shea,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shefflo,
Sheffel, yes.
Surges,
Burgess, yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Wonicky.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, motion passes. Mr. Hoshait.
Mr. Chairman, I move items 24 through 26.
So moved by Mr. Hoshait, second by Dr. Iqbal.
24 is authorizing rehiring of an assistant position at the Office of Animal Control. 25 is keeping in place our hiring moratorium, and 26 is payment of our monthly bills.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Fries, Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
O'Shea,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shefflo,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Wonicky.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Hoshait. Next, I'd like to ask our Chairman of Transportation, Drew Frost, to present and move, I believe it's 7 items today.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have 7 items. I'll move all 7.
So moved by Mr. Frost, second by Ms. Wonicky. Mr. Frost.
Item 1 approves a 3-year agreement with Workday Adaptive Planning for a 3-year software licensing agreement. The system's been in use by KDOT since 2014 for budgeting, forecasting, and data analytics. The amount is $74,397, and this 3-year contract saves us money over the former annual contracts. Item 2 approves a routine adopt the highway applicant. Items 3 and 4 approve the purchase of 2 new plow trucks, including the body packages and plow equipment. This is part of our scheduled fleet replacement process. The total is $328,764, and we got real good trade-in on the former 2 trucks. Item 3 approves a 3-year contract for GIS system services. This is our internal KDOT GIS system. The amount is $203,000. This is with GIS Solutions Incorporated. Item 6 approves a contract with Hampton, Lenzini, and Renwick out of Elgin. This is our 2021 annual bridge inspection services. The amount is $415,000. And item 7 amends a previously approved resolution. This is for right-of-way acquisition for the Bliss Main Fabian intersection realignment. And this simply adds $4,000 to the agreement to cover some unanticipated costs the seller had. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Frost. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Any from anybody on the phone? Hearing none. Clerk, call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Fries,
Yes.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
O'Shea,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shefflo,
Shefflo, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Thomas,
yes,
Weber,
Yes.
Wonicky.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, passes. Thank you. Mr. Hoshait, I believe that on behalf of the CAC committee, you'd like to present and move 6 or 7 items?
Yes, I move items 1 through 6, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hoshait moves items 1 through 6. Mr. Kenyon seconds. Mr. Hoshait.
Item 1 is a amendment to a prior resolution to include food distribution expenses as a permissible reimbursement that relates to Northern Illinois Food Bank. 2 and 3 are related. 2 approves the actual form of an agreement that we would have for not-for-profits and small businesses to sign. And 3 authorizes the state's attorney to execute those once the proper documentation is received. 4 authorizes approval of specific distributions to certain nonprofit organizations. Primarily, this relates to Lazarus House and Hesed House. And 5 goes one step further, approving the reimbursement of expenses to Hesed House in connection with their reconstruction of their shelter facility. Item 6 authorizes air purification health department generator to make sure that the vaccine, when it comes, has a backup source of refrigeration, and because that's critical to maintaining the integrity of the vaccine items. So those are the 6 items. There is a CAC committee tomorrow. We expect there may be a couple more resolutions that would be passed on directly to the agenda, and those would show up as non-consent agenda items.
Good, just fine. Okay, any discussions or questions? Okay, we have, actually, how about Joe doesn't get up too often. So Mr. Onsick, how about if you, I think there's maybe something you wanted to comment on the presentation, then we're going to go to Mr. Surges.
Yes, I think there may have been a misunderstanding. Item number 6 was already covered by items number 2 and 3 that are under the finance budget section. There were 2 separate resolutions that already came through on finance regarding what's being covered in item number 6.
I'm very sorry. I had a note and I had scribbled over it. Sorry, my mistake, Mr. Hoshait.
Right.
So thank you very much for correcting that, Mr. Onsick. So,
I'll amend the motion to
1 through
item
5.
1 through 5, with the understanding that I thought 6 was duplicious, but
Yes.
we're covering ourselves twice. But 1 through 5 would be moved on.
Very sorry. I had even had a note.
Mr.
myself.
Kenyon would amend his second.
Yes.
Good. Any thoughts or comments? Okay, now to Mr. Surges.
Mr. Chairman and Chairman Hoshait, I am trying to put some sequential order in the CAC committee for the Santa's Village not fitting into the entertainment and performing and visual arts venues line item. It doesn't squarely fit in there, but it's different than anything else. And I'm trying to create a placeholder for that discussion tomorrow, but still be able to move to the full board. And I'm not quite sure how to do that other than to bring it up right now. So
Okay, we have maximum flexibility for whatever the chairman and the committee want to do. So whatever the conclusion is from that, with John's permission, whatever the committee decides, we'll be happy to put that onto the agenda.
thank you, sir.
And as John says.
And John,
it'll be
thank you.
Non-consent agenda.
Right.
Is that
Yes.
acceptable? Okay. Other questions or comments? Seeing none? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Braz,
Yes.
Hanson,
Hanson, yes.
Hoshait,
Yes.
Igbo,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shefflo,
Shefflo, yes.
Surges,
Burgess, yes.
Thomas,
yes,
Weber,
Yes.
Wonicky.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, no executive session today. Committee reports. Ms. Wodnicki, would you rise, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a comment, and because we don't know where our committees will be in the future, who will be chairman of our committees in the future, but our energy and environment staff had worked really hard on the green building policy. And in September, the rough drafts were sent out to every single board member to take a look at it. And then it went through E&E committee on October 16th and was approved and moved to the admin committee. And then it was tabled, I think, for, I don't know, 30 days, or I'm not real sure. But the reason I'd like to speak about this is whoever is chairman of admin or E&E in the future, or development, I'd like to see this green building policy pass. A lot of what's mentioned in the green building policy is also in our 2040 comprehensive plan. It talks about sustainability and energy and resource efficiency in the design of new buildings. So please keep that in mind. And that was it. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Allen, would you rise, please?
Yes. This is just an update. This is not a turning back on this at all. We have some shifting of personnel and responsibilities in facilities management right now. And so there were some questions about what the data, just the daily effect would be on things like purchasing of small things like carpetings and doing the kind of work that we did in here and so on. So this is, the tabling was just done as an opportunity to investigate that and make sure that we're all on the same page, and that it's that it'll be a smooth flowing process. So that's, thank you for bringing it up, but that's what we were talking about.
And thank you, Deb. I just want to make sure it doesn't get pushed under a stack of papers and then after all the work staff put into it. So thank you.
As a matter of fact, one of the things that the committee really appreciated was the fact that in the rewriting of the green policy, a real effort is going to be made for all of us when we take on capital projects to think about the green effects first. We had the problem with the multi-use building, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this for years to come, that maybe geothermal was an expensive option. But when you start talking about a 100-year building, you would be saying to yourself, well, you know what, there's going to be some balancing out here and we really should take it seriously. And it just happened that in the way we were doing this time, we didn't get a chance to study some of those opportunities. So I'm really appreciative of the fact that staff worked so hard to say, look, guys, you don't get these opportunities very often. Don't blow them. Just think about them, study them, see if you can come up with ways to make it work. So we're really grateful for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And both of you will be continuing on in your service, so you'll be able to make sure that it's properly moved forward. So other thoughts and comments? Ms. Allen.
It just happens. I don't know, it's the God smiling on admin, I guess. Something that is in the ether that I just wanted to bring up because we will be talking about it as time goes on. Every department and every office has particular interests to the mission of that department or office. And so what happens, I think just naturally, is that people get into silos. Oops, sorry. Here's something that's going to be really good for my department. I want to go forward with this. What we learned, are learning through these processes, is that it works best if when you come up, when a department or an office comes up with a project like that, that they do something similar to what we did with the multi-use facility. You're thinking about, okay, what plans do we have to draw up? What architectural plans do we have to draw up? Who are the stakeholders going to be? Is everybody being brought in to talk about how they're affected? Where's the money going to come from? And then I'm sure there are more, but another one is, what about into the future? How is it going to be supported and maintained? Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to do the work and so on? So it makes sense that you would think about all of those things together anytime that you have a capital project coming up. And because we haven't worked that through, and we don't do that regularly, it came to our attention that you might go and find that you have just added an addition, added a new operation. And the fact is that facilities management is going to have the bottom line responsibility for anything that touches a building. So we want to try and come up with a policy that is workable for offices and departments throughout the county that says part of the thinking about these projects will involve what's going to happen down the line. And building management will certainly be part of that process. Because you just know, our director who just moved on to a different job said, you just know when something goes wrong, the phone call that's going to come in is not going to go anywhere except to me. So that's in the ether. And we don't know how the committees are going to be laid out. I'm going to be watching that one. I'm not the only one. And we'll see if we can come up with a policy. But if you want to think about that and how you can imagine it having ramifications so that we don't miss anything, that would be great. Mr. Chairman, thank you for indulging me.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Other committee reports? Mr. Surges?
Just really quickly. In my role professionally, we sometimes look at things and say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well did we do? Here's your survey, where do we rank? Unfortunately, in the Human Services Committee, so much of it becomes a threshold. Did we clear the threshold and satisfy it, or didn't we? And this year, we've really done a great job. And anybody that's been through our committee meetings, here's my mantra all the time: our committee just isn't sexy. There's compliance just isn't a sexy thing. Well, when we mentioned earlier today that check came in, this is something that we started 18 months ago. And I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge Sylvia for the hard work. This young lady has had to coddle and be tough all at the same times with our counterparts out there. And for this check to make it in this timing, I just wanted to make sure that we took a minute to say thank you to Sylvia and her team. But truly, Sylvia, you've done a great job at this project, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. So.
Mr. Fraz?
Transportation is the sexiest of all the committees. On a more serious note, I noticed we didn't have a report from King County Connects today. I'm just wondering what Mr. Nagel's status is, and I understand he's been dismissed.
That's been part of all the budget conversations, all of the riverboat grant discussions. There is an alternate that Roger Fonstock and his staff are working up that saves the county taxpayers $100,000. I understand your close personal working relation, or not only working relationship, but I think you guys might have gone to high school together or, grew up together. And so I appreciate that. The intention in those budget meetings, multiple budget meetings that many of those you attended, the intention is to save $100,000 in the communication process.
So you didn't answer my question. What is his status?
It's his last day was yesterday.
So he was terminated?
Or not yesterday, it was November 30th.
And he was terminated?
The funding on that program ran out. We're going in a different direction.
So he was terminated?
I don't know if terminated. The assignment came to an end.
And whose decision was that?
The board's decision as far as funding.
Well,
and you voted in favor of that budget.
Ending a program is one thing, but dismissing somebody is another. I really think that since Mr. Nagel reports to this committee, there should have been some committee discussion along those lines. And I really think that that firing should be suspended until such time the new board can take it up. I really don't want to get into another situation as we have in the past where we have a lawsuit from a person who was dismissed.
Are you suggesting that Mr. Nagel has any reason for a lawsuit?
I really don't want to go into that on the record, but you said it, not me.
Oh, no, I didn't say it. I say that every.
I just don't
piece
think
of
that
this
the
has been
chairman's
done
position
properly.
is such that you can just fire somebody at will.
That is not an accurate presentation of what has occurred. The funding for that program lapsed. And when funding in any grant program, whether it was the Riverboat, lapses, when it's not inserted into a future budget, there's not money to pay for it. And a person who has run a small business understands that
I just
better
think
than
that
most.
with the coming new board, I really think that we need to define who has the say over who was fired and hired in the Kane County Board office. Again, it's not the chairman's office, it's the Kane County Board office.
Yes, those budgets, both the allocations of the grant money from the Riverboat were, I think, passed unanimously. And the budget that has to do with all of our programs across the entire, that's not my decision. That's everybody's decision here. And it passed overwhelmingly.
I just think, Kane County Connects, as I believe, was your idea, and it was, sold to us as a great idea. And I think we all agree that it was a great idea, and it was very successful. We saw it built to over 10,000 users. And because of one minor dispute, disagreement, the thing is canceled and Mr. Nagel is dismissed, a good, hardworking employee. So I just want to go on record and say I oppose it. And I think that he should be reinstated for 30 days pending the new board's review of the situation.
Your comment is part of the record. And I strongly disagree with the characterization of so much of what was just said, but I defend Mr. Franz's right to say whatever he'd like. Okay. Other comments or questions? Committee report. Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to, since my colleague has opened the door, I'd like to first thank Drew for noting or reminding everyone that there was no report from Mr. Nagel today. And I would like to just go on the record and say I concur with everything he just said. But I really would like to just take the opportunity to thank Rick Nagel for the yeoman's job that he did with Kane County Connects. Again, one thing that Drew just said, Mr. Chairman, it was a great idea. And it's a shame that we're, in our final days, this is not one of the things that we're celebrating as part of your legacy here, because the residents have come to count on the information that came through Kane County Connects. They look for it. And so I think people are going to be very confused and surprised when it's no longer there. I applaud Roger and his team for their willingness to step in and fill the gap, but that is not their role. And as a journalism major and someone who is in communications through every role I've ever had in my professional life, communications is a full-time job. And I know Roger and his team will do a great job in the 30 days or so, or not 30 days, hopefully, but in the time between now and whenever someone is brought back in. I thank them for their willingness to do that. Chris Caius and I were, I think, and Drew, and forgive me if I'm leaving anyone out, we are the ones who stood up and tried to advocate to keep this position. But let's be real, we were not going to hold up an entire budget for one line item. And you know that, Mr. Chairman, we couldn't have done it. But again, I just want to thank Drew for opening the door, being on the record. And I guess this is fitting for me, since I was a lot of times out front being vocal on things. It's been my pleasure working with everybody over the past 4 years. I wish everyone who continues on all the best. I know you'll continue to do great work on behalf of our 500,000 plus residents of King County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Actually, I do believe, and the record will reflect your comment, I believe that we are celebrating the continuation. Most of you probably saw the notice last night on Kane County Connects continuing. And the way that it continues is at $100,000 less expense to the county taxpayers, $100,000 less to achieve a large percentage of the communication value. So other comments, observations, committee reports. Dr. Iqbal.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, different subject. We had a committee called Census Committee. We did our work and there's nothing more to do. The numbers have been communicated, are being communicated to the president, and during the spring, we would have a redistricting. At this point, I don't know the committee is officially dissolved or we had something that it needs to be dissolved, but I request that it has no other function, it should retire.
Okay. I appreciate again that Ms. Parag is here, our future chair. And I think that there are several things that have been mentioned in today's meetings that, go on to the to-do list. And that's I understand. I appreciate your bringing that forward. And can we recognize the work that Dr. Iqbal and other members of the Kane County Board did on that, on the whole census effort? So Dr. Iqbal. The other committee reports? Okay, several items that I'd like to bring to the executive committee's attention. Our night custodian, a fellow named Jeff, was coming through the other night and he did not look well. And it turns out that his father had died the day before at Hines VA hospital. He had gone in several weeks ago and he did die of COVID. And so I don't know if this, it was later on in the evening, but he's cleaning up. I got a chance to talk with him. Because of some of the restrictions, naturally, he did not get a chance to go in to say goodbye to his father. But if you would keep him and his whole family in your prayers, I'd appreciate it and he'd appreciate it. You've already covered Mr. Sturgis from Human Services, the good news about the 1.4 million. Another thing that I would like to put on the to-do list, onto the record, is the National Association of County Organizations they have put together a lessons learned on the COVID process. What we can do. I think that there is going to be another round of funding, but it's not just the funding, it's the vaccination, getting those deployed. I got a chance to talk to Kathy Fosser, I guess it was on Monday, and emphasize that on top of all the things that the health department is doing, if you wanted to score big, you'd get as much of vaccine resources as you possibly can, and you get them distributed efficiently. You say, what are the key success factors of running that operation and getting us through this challenge? In the end, it'll be the vaccination, and she noted that. But they've hired the National Academy of Public Administrators. So it's a combination of both, PhDs who study the field, but more importantly, the practitioners like you who actually do it. So the practitioners. So, eligibility of expenses when it comes to how we attack a challenge, flexibility, they're generating case studies. So it's something that you may want to put in the back of your mind as far as following up on that, because there will be some good work that comes out of it. We've already covered the 3+1. One of the issues that was raised at the last board meeting, Mr. Hanson, you had expressed a concern about an ethics violation that you said that I had committed, I believe that it was basically on in two areas. One was that I had violated an ethics ordinance that actually two state's attorneys, Mr. Barsanti and Mr. McMahon, have said are not useful, legally useful, but let's just assume that it is. I think that the 2 points that you made, and I'll ask you to correct me if I'm wrong, was that a contribution was made in excess of limits in that ethics ordinance, and that the contribution was not properly disclosed. Do I understand correctly? Yes. All right. Could you, would you put up the first slide?
Moment.
For many of us, I think probably for all of us, our reputations, it's the first one, the one before that. Okay. For all of us, I would make the assumption, our reputations are important to us. I don't know how to make it any more clear, perhaps even in a humorous way, but some of the people who I went to grade school and then high school with would recognize that I didn't even attend beer parties in high school. Now, what fun would I have been? But because I didn't want to have something happen and to embarrass my family. So part of what I've tried to do, and all of you have tried to do, is do things properly so that, and have your children do things properly so that you know, you're all proud of your record. So in the violation, section 3.3, political contributions, it says no more than $2,000 from any contractor, union, or entity. However, if you go to the next sheet, either Mr. Hansen didn't know, or maybe he knew, but didn't share the rest of it. The first part of that section of the ethics ordinance says that the ordinance is not applicable to any of the following. The third item is any contribution that is lawfully made under the election code or activities associated with fundraising, event, support of political organization or candidate. And certainly all the contributions that have come into my campaigns for 28 years, of course, they all are disclosed and they are all within the state law. Can you put up the next slide?
The different file?
Yes. The other is naturally, and the concept is accurate as far as disclosure. Disclosure is important. So let's see. I asked Mr. Onsick to go through as a person who is taking a look at the detail. And not only was the contribution disclosed once, but it was disclosed in each of the meetings for administration on October 14th of 20, finance of October 28th, 20, and then executive committee November 4th of 20, and then the county board meeting on November 10th of 20. Actually, if I went through every resolution, I would have known, well, you just need to take a look in the package and you'll find it. So it was 4 times disclosed. Will you please go to the next? Okay, this is actually a copy of the disclosure. It's page 71. Would you go to the next? Let's see. The proper disclosure when that first item was, that first extension application was in. This was properly disclosed of 2,500. Brenda Shorey, who is the reporter for the Chronicle, the Kane County Chronicle, in her report of the accusation that was made by Mr. Hansen, picked up that she had seen it. Now, it was a proper disclosure. there was a timing issue. When the next report was due, would you put up the next item?
Which one?
Okay, is there another item or not?
I don't believe I have. any.
Okay, there was a disclosure of, so the bottom line on these is that it was disclosed multiple times. Everybody did what they were supposed to do. In the 2020, the dates, I don't know where I put that sheet of paper, but they were all disclosed. So yes, Mr. Hanson, would you rise, please?
Sure. I don't know if people can see this online, but the dates you're talking about are exactly the issue at hand. Yes, what they disclosed 4 times over reflected what they had done prior to this resolution for their contract extension at the beginning of the committee process. I'm looking at the dates here, and that's exactly my issue. I don't need an ethics ordinance to know what's ethical, but I can look at that date and say that your contribution that you received was on 10/20. And their disclosure made by the contractor is dated on November the 25th. That's my problem. That's my issue.
No, this is
I'm looking at, this is your slide,
absolutely.
and we've never seen that until today.
Well, according to
what we,
excuse me, according to Mr. Onsick,
it's my floor.
who's gone through all these, no, it's not. And a false accusation does not help. If you would like to go through all of the different documents of the procurement, you can have the conversation. Mr. Onsick has provided these slides. They all comply with the law.
And I'm looking at the
Only my
same
point.
slide that you put up right now. You received a contribution on October the 20th. That became public information when reported to the state. That's dated, the contractual disclosure is dated on November the 25th.
Right, and that's when this.
We've never seen that until today.
Uh,
Yes.
Good interruption. Matt, why don't you do the background, why don't you go through the background research and you'll find that I say that it was a false accusation. Joe Onsick has the documentation. When that November 25th, that was done as it's supposed to be done. The application for the extension occurred sometime before October 20th. And what was on all those documents was the $2,500 contribution that had occurred within the 12 months period before. So it was disclosed. The point that you were trying to make is somehow somebody was hiding something, and no one hides anything here in King County government.
I look forward to what the state's attorneys find out and
Okay.
they discover too.
Super.
This is the first time any one of you that voted on the tabled resolution to extend the contract, this is the first time anyone's seen that today, until today.
Okay. As always, Mr. Hanson, you have the last word.
Oh, no, I'm sure you will.
Next on
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. Iqbal.
Yeah, slightly different things on ethics ordinance.
Mhm.
During the last 2 years, I wanted to amend the ethics ordinance because it is an obsolete ordinance what we have. We are a non-home community and our ordinances should conform to whatever the state legislature tells us to. And I could not find enough members to put that resolution up to conform to the state legislature. I still have the red copies, which I work with the state attorney's office to update it, but it looked like the members thought it was a radioactive substance. They didn't want to touch it. So I will bring it back again in the committees, and I hope the members will cooperate more, I would say, and move it forward and bring it close or not close to exactly what the state legislature wants us to be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Okay, let's see, second to the last item is I would like to thank our department directors, the countywide elected officials, our board members. I hope that what I've provided is an adequate measure of ambition and then a focused discipline on what we do. Your job and all the people's job who serve 532,000 constituents is to bring, barrels of honest competence. So you are the good looks and brains of the operation. But most importantly, I'd like to thank the citizens and constituents who have allowed me to serve these last 8 years. I have had a couple of conversations, very pleasant, productive conversations with Ms. Parag. I look forward to her administration. We had about an hour and a half meeting with Anita Lewis and Deb Allen, two ladies, two Democrats. We discussed also then last Sunday, Ms. Parag took at least 30, 45 minutes of her time to discuss, I think it was about 7 or 8 different items. And so anything that we can do to help, want to do it. So the schedule that occurs now is that we'll post the agenda on Friday. That will be on December 4th. Then on Monday, the new and continuing board members will be signing their oaths of office over at the 3rd Street Courthouse. From what I understand from the state's attorney's office, I believe that that's Aaron Brady. And then on Tuesday, December 8th, at the regular board meeting, there will be a ceremonial taking of the oath of office, and I believe that the chief judge is going to be, he'll take care of the oath of office, the ceremonial portion of it. And then Ms. Parag will be officiating from beginning to end of that meeting on Tuesday. I'll be available by telephone. And I wish you all the best. And let's see if that is it. So thank you very much for coming. May I have a motion?
Chairman Lawson, would you
Leonard?
indulge me, please? Chairman Lawson, Board Member Deb Allen has been working on putting together a plaque for you. And I was asked if I would present that to you. Unfortunately, it's still in the works, so you won't get it for a couple of days. However, I'd like to read it to you so we have it on record and everyone can hear what it says. It says, in appreciation of Christopher J. Lawson, Kane County Board Chairman, his friends and colleagues of the Kane County Board, on this 2nd day of December 2020, congratulate Christopher J. Lawson upon 28 years of elected public service to his constituents, friends, and neighbors of Kane County, Illinois. 20 of them as an Illinois State Senator and 8 as Kane County Board Chairman, and would like to extend their appreciation to him for the indefatigable hard work and dutiful pursuit of goals for their benefit. His service to the 532,000 citizens of Kane County include a frozen tax levy for all 8 years of his tenure, along with an annual balanced budget and reserves into the next fiscal year. His expertise and working knowledge of county finances include fully funding all retirement accounts at over 90% and reducing the county's bond indebtedness by over $80 million during his 8 years as chairman. His sense of fairness to all Kane County employees includes an annual 2% raise, along with maintaining or improving benefits. His alliance with his executive directors ensure the administrative success of the county's operations. Kane County's financial strength and bond rating improved such that we could build a $14 million multi-use facility at no additional cost to our taxpayers and with transparency so that every resident can see every penny the county spends. Chairman Lawson returns every phone call, monitors financial markets and their collateral effects continuously, reads pertinent books and magazines endlessly, spends evenings and weekends at his county desk or his Aurora library with county business and research, and never ceases to reason through the potential non-taxpayer solutions to fund the needs of county government. We thank him for his diligence, his energy, and his loyalty to his Kane County home and community now and forever. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Leonard and Ms. Allen and members of the executive committee and our whole team. So with that, I may have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Kenyon? So moved. Second by Dr. Iqbal. And we'll take this by voice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We're adjourned.
We'll provide an escort out of town for you.